listeners. Welcome to the next session.
An advice podcast for game masters seeking help with their next game session. I'm Adam Johns.
And I'm Allysa Johns.
And I guess we'll jump right in and start with our next session help segment.
Okay, this is fun because Adam doesn't know what this question is.
This episode we're going to try out. I don't know any of the questions in advance.
Yeah, fun.
Maybe that'll work better.
Okay, so this person, Frosty_Bagel, says, I totally screwed up. So my players have been investigating a force that has been terrorizing a section of road. It's a Lamia who has been building a small cult following. I have been building up to this encounter for a good 4 sessions. I won't go into the whole story, but I initiated combat before they could finish a long rest because I got caught up in the story and spaced the rules, and the cleric and paladin are low on spell slots. What should I do? I want the battle to be awesome, but I also don't want to backtrack the story since so much has been revealed. They are level 6. They have a monk, cleric, low on slots, and a paladin. So to start off, I have to admit, I had no idea what a Lamia was. So I had to look it up, and I stumbled across a really good resource that I think everybody should know about. There's a blog called The Monsters Know What They're Doing. And this blog is run by a person named, I just had it. Keith Amon. And so the Monsters Know What They're Doing. It's themonstersknow.com is the blog. And I found Lamia tactics. And so I learned that a Lamia is a half human, half lion with scales. It is from ancient Greek. I guess Hera, this person was cursed by Hera, or Hera was cursed to eat her firstborn and then continue to eat her own children. And then later is depicted as a half human, half snake on the bottom, but they got confused with, and I'm going to butcher this, Nagia? Nagia?
I don't know what you're referring to.
Nagia? Yeah, like a half person, half snake.
Nagi?
Maybe that's it. But they're different. They're usually depicted as half lion and usually female, and they kind of have strayed into a seductress, kind of very charismatic. But it's interesting because in this blog, The Monsters Know What They're Doing, the Lamia tactics talk about how this Lamia will disguise self, but they would still be super tall, at least 7 feet tall. So that might be a clue, but it could also be a fun way to, if you have a Lamia in your game, like the queen is extra tall. It might just be a throwaway, but then that's actually the clue. And there are male Lamias. It doesn't have to be a female. So if the players don't know that there are male Lamias, that could also be a fun thing. But generally, a Lamia would only show themselves to one person at a time to keep up the ruse and disguise. It's really interesting. I think I want to play with this. Hopefully none of my players are listening.
Like me.
Well, yeah, but you always know. Okay, Adam always knows my campaign because what do? I go, Adam, I want to have this battle, and this is the bad guy, and I'm sorry I'm telling you, but how do I make it? And then he helps me.
It's okay. I'm very used to it.
Yes, he is. Much like I usually know your plots, too.
That's true.
Yeah.
So the Lamia, I've seen lots of depictions of Lamia, even like more centaur-like, or with like a deer bottom half.
Yeah, they can disguise their bottom half if they're powerful enough to be whatever.
So I'll admit I don't know that much about Lamia from the ancient Greek philosophy and tales.
Tales.
Yeah. But I have used them in games before. I've always played Lamia as more like powerful tricksters.
Okay.
The illusions really give you an opportunity to fiddle around with how they might want to be perceived as powerful. Almost more like a genie than necessarily like a jester or anything like that. Like a genie who's powerful enough to make themselves look powerful. So they would put themselves in the position of being the leader of a church or the leader of a cult.
Well, in this case, the leader of a cult, a small cult following.
I've always imagined that Lamia is like power. and like being in the position of power, and like having followers who will do things for them. And power is many things. It is the ability to cast powerful spells, but it's also the influence over people, so that they will do the things that you want them to do.
Yeah. Well, so what's interesting is you don't need to know what a Lamia is to answer the question.
That's true.
Basically, they've been building up to this big fight, and they forgot to give a long rest, so everyone's low on spell slots, and they don't want to backtrack. What would you do?
So there's a couple of ways that I might do this. One is remembering that good fights are not about mechanics. You can have epic battles as level 1 characters with very few spells available and very few things. And it's all about setting up the opportunity for environment interaction, for really good description of back and forth combat. But a lot of that takes a lot of practice, and your players have to be really used to it. In this case, because there's this mechanics challenge in the way, what I might recommend is to do a 2-stage combat, and to have the Lamia like start off in one form, say like a super tall person form, and then as you finally do enough damage or defeat all the henchmen that go along with the Lamia, then the Lamia retreats, and then you have a chance to rest before chasing after it.
Okay, I like that.
And I'd probably do something like that and drag it on just a little bit longer. But it would mean that I'd need to make the second half, the next time you finally fight the Lamia, much more epic. It
The bottom half?
Right. The bottom half of the Lamia. A lot more of an epic battle. Which might be easy because now all of your players have had a chance to rest and can get all their stuff back, and you can make the Lamia hit a little harder and be a little more powerful.
Extend your sessions out. So if you were planning on ending on a big battle, now you would extend it out by one more game.
That's true. Although, in this case, they were saying that they were going to build up to this encounter for a long time, and it sounds like they kind of got to it a little early. So they aren't necessarily extending more sessions onto the end of it. They're just really kind of saying, like, here's the first encounter with the boss. Oh no, the boss is really powerful. And the really good part about this would be if you could get the players to run away.
That's true. But not every player picks up on the clue, hey, you can't fight this person.
It's true. The nature of Dungeons & Dragons is such that the players don't know if something is too powerful for them unless you make it very, very clear and explicit to them. You can't say, here's a red dragon to level 1 players and then expect them to run away from it. Both because some players don't know what the power level is of different monsters, but also because game masters change the power of monsters all the time. So the players don't know when you say you walk into a room and there's a big red dragon there and he roars at you and spits fire at you, the players don't know that that's not part of the plot line, that they're supposed to fight the big red dragon that you just put in front of them. And this is always the case. If you put a door in front of players and you say the door is locked, and they will do everything in their power to try to open the door. They don't know. They don't know that that's not the plot line. And the difference between an obstacle that is impassable and an obstacle that you just need to try harder at is imperceptible to the players at the table. Which is why, as a game master, part of your job when you do want to set up something like that is to make it very clear. The door is locked and there is no way through. You must need to find a key or a magic item to open the door somewhere else. So you have to hand it to them. You have to actually explain to them that this is an obstacle that is impassable until they go do something else. And the same way is true for monsters. Yeah.
Is there ever a time that you would retcon it, that you would say, hey, I forgot to give you a rest. You can just, write it back on all your spell slots. You took a rest at some point. We'll just fudge that and keep going.
Yeah, I've done that on plenty of occasions, especially with short rests. They'll come into a combat and they'll say, we don't have any of our spell slots and I'm still at 2 hit points. And I'll be like, oh, you guys totally had a chance to take a short rest. Just a little while ago. So you should go ahead and use your hit dice now and get your
I don't think back. That takes me personally out of the game. I think that's just kind of like there's a layer of, we are people playing this game together. I have a sheet in front of me. And that's where I would like back up to and go, okay, yeah, we're playing a game and mechanically I have my spell slots back. And then you can dive back into the story and it's like there's a little bubble, but it's not a big disruption.
Now, there may be a difference with something like a long rest. If I've been like trudging through a dungeon, and there really it's been nonstop action packed the whole way through, it is tough to go, where was your long rest? Where exactly did you like take a nap for 8 hours?
Hold on. I paused. I know I'm trudging through the jungle, but I paused at the beginning of this cave, and I know the mosquitoes are out, but I made a campfire and I sat for 8 hours. It was great. Rested. Lamia's right inside, but it's cool.
It didn't come out.
Yeah.
no one came in or out of the cave.
We didn't need to like post guard, and it's fine.
So some of that can be a little hard to insert. And that might be where you could retcon it, and I'm sure the players would be fine with it, especially if you said, "Oh, I wanted this to be a really tough battle, so magically you're all healed to full." And
that's true. Ooh, that's true. I came across a flower, and this flower gave me all of my things back.
Right.
And then they'd be like, I get more of those flowers.
There's
I'm a farmer now. I want all the flowers.
They listed that the party is a monk, a cleric, and a paladin. Maybe one of them prays to their god, and their god gives them all a long rest.
There you go.
That is maybe an option that you can have here. Or God comes to them and says, "This was not your destiny." Ooh, maybe the Lamia kills them, and then one of their gods, comes down and says, "This was not your destiny."
Literal Deus ex machina.
Literal Deus ex machina. But doesn't fix the problem. Doesn't get rid of the Lamia. Just gives them back their spell slots and hit points.
Oh my gosh, that's like a video game.
Yeah, it really is.
I reload my last save.
Right. I reload from right before. Ooh, it'd be extra good if one of them actually prayed to the god, a god of time or something like that.
Istis.
Yeah, and then Istis comes down and doesn't like resurrect you right there, but instead says, "This was not your destiny," and then rolls back time and then gives you full hit points and full spell slots and everything, full rest for the start of the battle instead.
That's like Scott Pilgrim when he's like extra life, and,
Yeah.
then he takes it, and then you gain the power of what was it? Self-appreciation or confidence,
self-awareness,
something like that. Cool. Well, I hope that helps, Frosty Bagel. Also, I love your name.
Yeah,
makes me want a Frosty Bagel.
Is a Frosty Bagel a frozen bagel? Or is that like a bagel with frosting on it?
I imagine
that's just a donut, isn't it?
It's a very chewy donut.
It's a very chewy donut. It's a really dense donut.
In my mind, when you get like a frosty mug of root beer.
Okay. It's frosted. It's literally frozen.
It's cold.
It's cold around.
And it's refreshing. And so in my mind, a frosty bagel is a really refreshing bagel.
This is a refreshing bagel with nice frost around the rim of the bagel.
I mean, it would be hot.
It's hot. It's just frosty at the same time.
If frosty doesn't have to mean cold.
No, just refreshing.
Just refreshing?
Very refreshing bagel.
Maybe that's what that means.
Well, anyway, thanks for the question.
Thanks, Frosty Bagel. All right. So this next question comes from, and I'm not making this up, Pocklazors.
Pocklazors.
It looks like if you put the K and the L differently, it would be like Paul Kazors, but it's Pocklazors.
Pocklazors.
Yeah. Pocklazor says, and by the way, as stated in the last episode, we are not live yet, so there's no reason anyone would submit questions to us. But if you want to stop hearing Reddit questions, you can email us or find us on our website, thenextsessionpodcast.com, and you can submit a session or a question, not a session.
I mean, maybe. It could be such a complicated question. It deserves an entire session.
That's a very good point. And then we would have you on.
Oh yeah, that might be true.
Yeah.
You can also contact us over Twitter and submit any questions through Twitter at the next session. And we're happy to receive questions that way too.
Or Facebook.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Pocklazor says, should I have my big treasure chest be empty, except for a note saying, the real treasure is the friends you made along the way?
Oh, man. It's such a good gag.
That is a good gag, but it's mean. You're an adventurer, and you're going through this entire dungeon, and you're going for this. I'm assuming they have a reason to go through this dungeon, and it's probably there's a big treasure chest, at the end. And you go all the way up and you open it and it just has this little note saying, or maybe it's written into the
lid of the treasure
lining.
chest.
That would be so rude.
I like the note idea. Like it wasn't like somebody took the treasure and then carved that into the lid. Like the person who put the treasure here left a nice furled note with the friends you met along the way is your real treasure.
Yeah.
Okay. Would I put that in a treasure chest in some dungeon?
Yes, you would.
I would 100%
You would
do that.
so do that.
I would 100% do that, and I would think it was hilarious, whether or not my players did. Would I put that at the end of a long campaign where you finally defeated the evil Lamia or whatever, and it was a difficult battle and a difficult campaign, and this is the moment where you leveled up and you get a new magic item, and this is what you get in the chest? Probably not.
Okay.
The gag is good, and it would be good for like a side room or even like a minor trap. You defeat the minor trap in the room, and then you open the chest, and then it just says the reward is the friends you made along the way.
The real treasure.
Right. And you go, oh. And that would be good if I spent half a day, half a session or something, or a quarter of a session on a trap room to lead to this gag. I think the players would find that funny. They would get the joke there. Would I do that for the end of the campaign? I don't think I would. Ooh, or I might National Treasure it.
You might National Treasure it?
In the movie National Treasure.
Oh, okay. Keep going.
In the movie National Treasure, they're chasing after all these clues to look for a big treasure. Whether or not you've seen the movie, that's basically the premise.
It's a really good movie.
It is a good movie. It's one of my favorite Nick Cage movies.
It's pretty much the only Nick Cage movie I watch. And The Rock. I've seen The Rock.
Yeah, The Rock is really good too. Yeah. Ghost Rider.
I never saw Ghost Rider.
So in National Treasure, there's a moment where they're building and building, and they're following clue after clue, and they finally go down into this underground cavern, and it's hard to get down into this underground structure. They dig, follow ancient stairs down, and they finally get down to the spot, and then there's nothing there. And the bad guy says, like, what's going on? And Nick Cage reluctantly gives up that this is yet another clue to go to another spot because there's two lanterns. And
it was Nick Cage's dad, to be clear.
Sure.
In the movie.
And they say, oh, it's yet another clue. And then the bad guy leaves them there and goes after what he thinks is the
spoilers for National Treasure, by the way.
Yeah, if you haven't seen this movie,
sorry.
I'm sorry. But also, it's been a long time. Go see the movie. Well, it's a great movie.
There's a sequel, so at least you're not spoiling the sequel.
Yeah. So in the sequel...
Well, crap. No. We just spoiled that they lived through the first one.
Oh, no.
Poop.
Yeah. Just in case you thought somehow that Nick Cage was going to die in the
Disney movie of National Treasure
movie. What's great about it is that it turns out the treasure is actually there, but it's hidden behind a secret panel in the wall that they need a key to open. And that is something you could totally do here. You open the chest, it says the real treasure was the friends you made along the way, and then you give somebody the clue to say, you want to keep looking, and somewhere in the chest or behind the chest or something, there's a secret door that opens up to reveal a real treasure.
Okay. Or like you lift the treasure chest because it's empty, so you can lift it, and underneath is a tunnel down, and there's another treasure chest.
Something like that. So then you get the gag, and you get the moment of all the players going, oh, really?
Roll my eyes.
Right. But you also still get to hand them some real treasure. So then maybe that's the best of both worlds.
Although, how satisfying would it be for Paul Lazors to say, end of the campaign?
It's totally true. I'll also say there is a tendency in a lot of games. There's a lot of cool stuff that comes along with getting magic items, getting treasure so you can buy new cool stuff, leveling up. But sometimes those things can get in the way of the players appreciating the story that they have.
That's true.
And sometimes your job as a game master is to skirt that line a little bit. And that might mean that you give out a bunch of gag magic items, or you give out things that help really move the story along, or personal items for the characters rather than things that help them feel more powerful.
So... okay, I could see a couple different ways that I might play this. You have the treasure chest. They open it up. It says the real treasures the friends you made along the way. They pick up the note, and something happens where it charms or affects all of the players as a group. as a group of friends. So now this group of friends has a bonus to being with each other in a group.
Ooh.
Right? So if they split the party, they don't get that bonus anymore. They don't get the real friends made along the way bonus that you're making up. So it like the person holding the, you can play this out. The person holding the note, there's a glow, there's an aura around them, and then suddenly, just like in Guardians of the Galaxy, like someone comes up and touches you, and then it affects the other person, and now you're all glowing and connected, and like you get plus whatever to whatever for being in a group.
Sure.
So that could be a thing that you could give out. I agree with you. I don't know if I would give it to them as the end of this whole dungeon unless it was really good. This might be a side quest, side room, side mini boss bonus if it's not so good. Or the real treasures, the friends you made along the way, is inside of a treasure chest, and it's a mimic. And oh no, it's a mimic, another fight. And then when you destroy that mimic, he vomits up all the treasure.
Oh yeah, sure.
Like
that'd be kind of
treasure.
Fun. Yeah. Your idea about the you pick up the note and it sort of casts a spell on everybody gave me an interesting idea.
Okay.
What if you pick up the note? This is more set you on a whole new storyline. But what if you pick up the note and it casts a spell on all of you that makes you think that you are different people than you actually were? So there have been some shows that have done this. Supernatural did an episode like this where they imagined that they had normal lives instead of adventurers' lives. And you could do something like that here where like there's a flash of light and then you like wake up in your bed and your wife is next to you and you get up and you go to your job, your regular job.
Oh, this seems super Doctor Who. I think Doctor Who did this too.
Yeah.
There was like
there was an episode, where he lost his memory. He sealed away his memory or
in
something
a compass.
like that. Yeah.
Pocket watch.
Right. And you could totally do something like that where the gimmick is then like all the players are like neighbors with each other. Like they all know each other, but they all had this strange dream where they were adventurers. And then you can really role play out. They like get together for their weekly card game or something. And one of them can say like, yeah, I had this really strange dream. We were like adventurers in a dungeon. And everybody else is like, yeah, I had the same dream. And then you have something like someone comes after them. Like triggering this idea that like, maybe we were adventurers, but that doesn't make sense.
Something slips through the mirage.
Yeah. Also
very Rick and Morty.
Yeah, it is. It is a little bit of Rick and Morty. I think this kind of trope has been played up a whole lot.
My man.
So, my man. Human music.
Human music. Oh, man.
Apparently, we're just going to make lots of pop culture references on this podcast. So.
I warned them in the description that we are people who grew up in the 90s, and
we may make...
they should already know we're nerds and geeks based on this podcast. And
it's totally true. We definitely are showing our geek flags flying here. But the point remains, we're going to make a lot of pop culture references.
Yes, and hopefully... we're not violating anything by making this pop
I think we can
culture.
reference. We just can't sing the songs or whatever.
I think we could sing a little bit of the songs.
So the answer to the question is maybe on the chest with the note. I think you could do some interesting stuff with it.
It depends on your players. It depends on your rapport, and I think there's different ways that you could do it that would, be better or worse for your players.
Yeah, maybe still give them the satisfaction they need rather than them leaving the session being angry. That actually reminds me of another piece of game master advice that I think is worthwhile to pass on.
Okay.
There are sort of studies that show that the last emotional experience you have with a thing that you've done, an event or a experience that you've had with somebody is the one that you remember the most. It's the one that you carry with you. So it is worthwhile. In our games, we always try to end on like a cliffhanger or an exciting moment. And it's worthwhile to always try to end your games in a similar fashion so that you can end on a high note. And you don't want to drag out the game all the way until like everybody's too tired and everybody's kind of worn out, because it will make them less excited to come back for the next game. But if you can end on a high note, if you can end on an exciting moment, it means that your players are going to remember that excitement that they had at the end of the game, and they will bring that into their excitement and motivation to attend the next session.
The next session?
Yeah.
That's good. I could see that. You know, TV shows, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Books know what they're doing. If you've ever read a book that ends on a cliffhanger and then you just, oh, I need to read the next book now.
Oh yeah. That's how I felt with all the King Killer trilogy.
Oh, don't bring it up.
Name of the
Don't,
Wind,
no,
Lies
no.
Man's
He
Fear.
knows.
Yeah.
He knows he hasn't. Everybody knows.
This is a book series by writer Patrick Rothfuss, who I adore. He's wonderful, and he has done a bunch of Dungeons and Dragons stuff.
We met him a couple times.
Yeah, we've met him a couple of times, which is really exciting. He wrote a book series that I totally recommend, a wonderful fantasy series. The first book is called Name of the Wind. They're not a sponsor. I just really like the books.
But the third book isn't out yet.
But the third book's not
It's
out.
been a little while.
It's been a while.
And everybody
Don't
knows.
don't ask him about it.
Yes. No, we just want him to focus on the book. All right. With that, I think it's time for a break.
That sounds good.
All right.
Let's do it.
See ya in a little bit.
And we're back.
And we're back. All right. So let's jump into the next section, which is Ask a GM.
All right.
It's kind of what we've already been doing, but this is can be a little bit more vague of a question. So this one is, how do you practice NPCs? Truth be told, practicing NPCs before a session is the least fun I have as a DM. And I think it's largely because I have no system to follow. I just hand wave some random monologue and stop after a while. How do you guys practice? How long do you practice one minor and one major NPC? Do you have a system? This is from user Sta6.
So there are definite... I have go-to NPC voices and characters that I often pick. There's like goofy gnome or goblin NPC, and that's a voice kind of like this. Whoa! That's a pretty big guy over there. And then I have, classic bad guy or gruff character. Yeah, we should break down the door over there. And there are just go-tos that I could fall into all the time. The advice that my longtime friend and business partner Adam Davis, who does a ton of character voices and great character acting in his D&D games,
Who we're going to have on at some point.
Oh yeah, and he actually may provide a lot more advice specifically on voices and things like that. But I'll give a little bit here, which is a lot of the times the NPCs that you create, you will remember a lot better with two things. The first one is a passphrase, and a passphrase is a phrase that you say that helps you remember how to be in character with that NPC.
Oh yeah, like your Scottish one.
I say Scotland is great when I try to do a Scottish accent, and I'll warn everybody that I'm terrible with accents. But the great thing about role-playing games like Dungeons & Dragons is you don't have to be accurate. Whatever accent I do is the accent of the character. They don't actually have to be from Scotland. So I will say, Scotland is great. And that'll be my Scottish accent. That's my key phrase for getting into an accent like that. And then I can do that accent whenever I want to, just so long as I say Scotland is great before I fold into it. And it's not a great Scottish accent, but it is an accent that I gave to my character. That's the really important thing. Remember that there is a hazy territory where you start to get offensive with your accents, and I encourage everybody to be aware of that. But you can remember that you can do funny accents and funny voices, and that's an okay place to get to as a game master, especially if your players at your table are on board with sort of your goofy acting there.
But how do you practice what to say? Because I think this person is more saying that they just don't know how to act as that person.
So I think that's what this is really about. When you're acting as a person, you're not really practicing a script. I mean, you could practice a script. You could write out a specific monologue. But if you needed to do that, then you could just read the monologue. I'm not sure that there's a whole lot
hand it to the players. This is what they say, which would be really boring.
That'd be really boring. I wouldn't recommend it. The real character acting here and getting in the moment and really being in the moment with your players is really about having that key phrase and knowing kind of who the personality is of the character, as well as having a body language. The body language really helps a lot. Adam Davis will like close one eye and scrunch up his face and hunch over his shoulders and raise his hands in the air. And those things are all things that help him embody that character in the moment. And they're really more reminders for him. Yes, they maybe help portray the character to the players, but they're reminders for him to get into the character of who that person is. And that's what you really want to think about here, is not necessarily when you're playing an NPC, you know, what does their voice sound like specifically, or what are the specific things they're going to say, but rather what is their motivation, what is the character want, and what are they trying to get after, and what is the personality that they have that they're trying to use to get to it.
I find that it's easier for me if I have a bunch of NPCs that I'm going to portray to model them after characters I already know really well, whether it's from books or movies or TV shows or a real person. I think like, okay, this person that I'm about to play is going to be like a Shaggy from Scooby-Doo character, and he's going to go, oh man, I don't know, man. Yeah. Which obviously my Shaggy impersonation is on point.
Spot on.
100%. Don't you know the guy who did the voice for Shaggy?
For the live action one, yeah.
Yeah.
I've met him in person, which was really fun. Yeah. Matthew Lillard,
yeah, and he likes D&D.
He does. He's actually a big D&D player.
Matthew Lillard, if you are listening, we'll take you any day. You can come on.
Sure, you can come on. We would love to have you
any day. Over Zoom, socially distant, of course. But yeah, so I come up with a character that I already know and put them into my head, and that way I have those kind of mannerisms, and I kind of know already how they're going to answer. If it's going to be Rarity from My Little Pony, I already know she's a little stuck up. She's very generous, but she is posh, and she has her mannerisms. And suddenly, I'm sitting up at the table, just like you said, and my hands are, oh no, darling, you know, that kind of a thing. Versus, who would be another good character to put into your game really quickly as a snap decision?
Maybe another Disney character.
Oh yeah, what's another good Disney character? Zazu, maybe.
Sure.
From Lion King, he could be a little British, and he could be a little like, the morning report, you know. And maybe this is a butler, and he's going, oh sir, oh, must I do this?
Well, I would never put up with that.
Yes, when your father was around. Yeah, suddenly you have that character in your head, and that can help you in a quick decision. It really helps, as we said before the break, that we are 90s pop culture people. So it really helps having all of these like references to pull from, especially if your players don't, because then you seem like a genius.
Sure. Yeah, if you can pull a character that your players haven't seen or weren't aware of, now you seem like a character genius.
Your villain is Umbridge from Harry Potter. Like, that is a...
Yeah.
That sucks, but that is a good character.
Skin crawling.
Ugh. All right.
Yeah. I definitely think that being able to pull from a character that you know, or at least liken it to a character that you know, you can even say, this character is like Benedict Cumberbatch from Sherlock Holmes, but a little bit more likable.
Snoop-de-doo.
Yeah.
Cookie bins, you mean?
Or you can say this character is Gandalf. But he is British. British Gandalf. And that is the sort of framework that I have for setting up a character. And that gives me enough. You're right that like I can think about like what would Gandalf say here, but with a British accent.
But more British.
But more Britishy.
Yes, and unfortunately us Americans are very good at doing the British accent from Mary Poppins, that Bert would do.
That is like,
hello.
That's the British accent that all Americans were exposed to.
Yeah, pretty well. I'm sure there are some lovely actors out there who can do a spot on different dialects of the British accent, but it is not me.
It's probably true. I do hear lots of British actors who do just spot on American accents.
Oh yeah,
Hugh Laurie did an amazing American accent when he did House.
Or Tom Holland, I think, from Spider-Man. I had no clue that he was an American.
Yeah,
it
really
was amazing.
Spectacular. So anyway, as you're thinking about your NPC characters, I think the real secret is to embody and to liken it to something that you can really root it in, rather than necessarily like have the monologue written out, or have the script for that character.
Yeah, we don't have a system. Our system is, if it's me, I would write down British Gandalf next to their name, and then I already know what I'm going back to every time. And you can have your passphrase, your, what did you call it? Your key phrase
or passphrase,
written down underneath that. Scotland is great to get into it. Or in my case, it's wicked dark down there.
Oh yeah, for the Boston accent.
Yeah, I tried to do a Boston accent, and the only Boston accent clip I could do was from Finding Nemo. It's wicked dark down there.
Yeah,
and then
you gotta park the car.
And then I would have that, and then I would do a terrible Boston accent, but it was fun. It adds a lot.
It can add a lot, and it's worthwhile to say, Allysa and I love doing accents, but you don't even have to do an accent. Sometimes you can just clench your jaw a little and speak in a lower voice, and now I've got a character that's right here in front of you. And that's just, there's no accent there. It's just a lower, gruffer voice and me clenching my jaw, and that's all it is. So sometimes it's just playing around with like your mouth position.
Yeah.
Are you going to focus on your jaw or your teeth or your lips? We'll probably, when we have Adam Davis on, we'll have him talk a little about voice acting, and that's actually a big part of doing character voices is finding placement for it and stuff like that. We'll get more into that.
You should talk really quickly about, before we get into our next segment, you should talk really quickly about the situation one of your characters put you in recently in your Psychology in Seattle game.
Oh yeah. So one of my players, Kirk Honda, if you listen to the Psychology in Seattle Dungeons and Dragons podcast, I'm the game master for that.
It's the Seattle Psychology in Seattle podcast,
Yes.
And then every once in a while they do a D&D session, and Adam is the game master for it.
So my players are Kirk Honda and Umberto Castaneda and Adam Davis, and in one of the starts of the new season, Kirk Honda took on a character that was supposed to be dead.
He disguised himself.
Right. And then gave that character a voice, which was a high-pitched sort of Mickey Mouse voice.
And Adam had told them he was going to be kind of doing flashbacky scenes with this dead character.
But I hadn't done them yet.
Yeah, he hadn't done them yet, so he had never established the voice. And Kirk comes out with this, oh... I can't even do it.
Super high pitch. Hello.
It was so funny. And poor Adam is like, oh my God, I'm going to have to do this.
The worst part is now I have to do this voice for the entire rest of this character. This is now the commitment of the voice that they've made for this character.
That's what makes you a great game master. You are committing to that voice. Although I think I had a pretty clever way of getting around that.
Yes. Yeah.
Can I say it?
Yeah, because I'm not going to use it. So
well, thanks.
I mean that I already made the choice not to use it.
Yeah, so I know. Thanks. So my idea was that he's doing these flashbacks, right, with this character who has this high pitched voice, who we know is dead, but in the flashbacks, obviously, he's not. And so you can do these flashbacks where he has a regular sounding voice, a regular cadence, and the players will be like, "What? I thought he had this high pitched voice," and then later. You can have a flashback scene where he has like an accident where his larynx is burnt or something, and then he talks like this again, and it could be a funny moment, kind of like in pop culture reference, kind of like in the Futurama movie,
sure.
Bender's Big Score, where spoiler alert for Bender's Big Score, Fry goes back in time and he gets into a fire, and then his voice drops and his hair burns off, and he becomes Lars.
Right, who has a slightly different voice from Fry.
Right, yeah. So I thought that would have been a good way to get around having to do that voice every single time you did a flashback, and it would be kind of a funny, like inside, oh, this is when he gets that high-pitched voice that Kirk did before. Mm-hmm. So
ultimately, I decided to just throw myself in and commit to the voice.
Yeah, he just went.
And now this character has to do some serious moments.
Yeah.
With a Mickey Mouse voice.
It's so funny. You really got to listen to this because it's hilarious. They're in a library. They're trying to be quiet, and he's going, "Oh, have you seen this book over here?"
That's pretty fun.
Oh man, it was awesome. Okay, I hope we answered your question, Star 6. I hope that gives you some help if you listen to this podcast. We're going to move on to our final segment, which is called Use That Spell.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Use that spell.
This is where I name a spell and we discuss different ways to use it. And in this case, Adam has no idea what it is.
Nope.
So I found the spell. It's called Life Transference. Have you ever heard of Life Transference?
No, but it sounds like I need a little of it.
This is a spell from Xanathar's Guide to Everything, which I also don't know what that is.
It's one of the expanded books.
Okay, yeah, I don't have
official Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition material.
So this is from Xanathar's Guide to Everything on page 160. It's a necromancy spell, level 3, casting time 1 action, range of 30 feet, has VNS components, and it is instantaneous.
Can we pause for a second? Do you know what the components are?
No clue. VNS. Okay. It's like Sailor V
there.
And Sailor Saturn.
Sailor Saturn. Those are the components of the spell. You need to be Sailor Venus and Sailor Saturn.
Yeah, the best ones.
The components section of any spell, for any new game masters out there, is the verbal, somatic, and materials components. So for any spell in Dungeons and Dragons, they require one or more of these components, which are you have to say something, you have to move your hands or your body around, that's somatic, and you have to have some kind of material. So when you look at the spells and they say it has a V and an S, that means that it is verbal and somatic, which means that if, for instance, you were tied up, you couldn't cast the spell because you can't fulfill the somatic components of the spell.
That adds a lot of fun role-playing to your spell casting. Absolutely. That I had no clue. Although, I still think it would be funny if they had to act like Sailor V.
Yeah, sure. To add that in, too.
Okay, so here's the spell. You sacrifice some of your health to mend another creature's injuries. You take 4d8 necrotic damage, and one creature of your choice that you can see within range regains a number of hit points equal to twice the necrotic damage you take. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of hit points.
At higher level, when you cast the spell using a spell slot, a 4th level or higher, the damage increases by 1d8 for each slot level above 3rd.
Okay. So I can see some like just great moments that you could create with this.
Right.
Spell.
Yeah, I could see necromancy is a fun mechanic, is a fun thing to play around with. It doesn't have to be evil, right? And this is kind of in that vein. This is a self-sacrificing necromancer.
Sure. Yeah.
who can like help heal. And creatures means you can do players too.
Yep. Okay. Creature just means that it can target a player or a humanoid or a monster or anything like that.
Right. So there could be a great moment where there is like a dragon who is injured and you have to, no one knows what to do. There's some bad guys coming who are going to try to like finish the job, and you could like help heal this dragon.
Oh yeah. That could be pretty amazing. I like one of the things I like about this spell is what I would imagine is the description of what it looks like. And this could be anything from like your skin turns ashen and gray as you cast the spell, and there's a shimmering light that travels from your hands to the target that you're casting on. Or it could really be like you stab yourself. And in stabbing yourself, you create like a dark magic that comes thrusting from your wound into somebody else and heals them.
That's like there's some. I mean, I know it's transference, but that's a little like I don't know, STD kind of realm.
Oh yeah,
like ugh.
That's pretty horrible that way. But I'm healing you.
Yeah, that's true. Although, as we learned from our very first episode, don't bleed on random things.
Oh yeah, that's pretty true.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see you hold your hand onto them and your hand starts shriveling and turning black as its energy goes into this. And maybe, here's a fun idea, maybe whatever creature that you helped has your handprint on them.
That's a cool idea. I like the concept that you have to like give a little piece of your soul or something to along with this to do the heal. Or I like the idea, what happens if you use the spell and it kills you?
That's a good question.
You're rolling dice. 48 is quite a lot of dice. And it's a level 3 spell, so that means that your characters are going to be around level 6 or 7. So they wouldn't likely kill themselves with one cast of the spell. But if they were already at half hit points or something like that, or it's a necromancy spell, so it could be a wizard with not a whole lot of hit points to begin with, you could kill yourself with this spell, which presents like a lot of great story options.
Oh, yeah. Oof. I could also, okay. Would you be okay if I, as this character, want to cast this and transfer my life energy into an orb or something? Like, I'm dying. I have this one last spell I can use into an orb, and then it becomes part of getting my life essence back into a vessel.
So, yes, I would allow it if it served the story really well. If you were just like, I'm in a shop. Oh, cool, I found an orb. I want to just put my life essence in this orb. I'd be like, that's not really how it works.
That also sounds really dirty when you put it like that. Ooh, this is an orb.
Ooh, nice orb
nice
over here.
Orb over here. I'm going to put my life essence into it.
Yeah, it sounds pretty terrible.
Nope. Yeah.
Apparently Life Transference is a real dirty spell.
Really dirty. Or we're just really dirty.
Yeah, maybe that's true. I probably would not allow it in that case. I would just say that's not really how the spell works. But if it was for the story, if it was you're dying, you are at 0 hit points or at 1 hit point or whatever, and you're about to die, you want to do this to save yourself, I would probably allow it. And in fact, in that case, I would allow you to do that to somebody else to save them.
Oh, okay, here's another one. Much like we talked about, I had a character who was a gnome inside of a construct, all that jazz.
Yep.
What if you use life transference on a suit of armor? Could I bring that to life? I am a necromancer.
So I'm a big fan of the anime Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Oh, yeah.
Or the original Full Metal Alchemist. And in the show, in the anime, there's a character who is just bound to a suit of armor. So the suit of armor is empty, but there's a character who can move it around and speak. And all of those things, and that would be a perfect way to sort of set that up, right? Which is you sacrifice your whole body to basically put your soul into something else. And I would still let you speak. And in the case of something like a suit of armor, I'd probably even let you move around. And
so
stuff.
In this case, it would be killing you,
right?
Okay, you would only do it if it killed me.
Yes.
Otherwise, I'm just getting a free.
Yeah, just getting a free construct.
Yeah,
that's not interesting.
Yeah, I guess so.
You want to be careful that you're not giving your player a thing they're going to do every single time now. Now are they going to carry around a suit of armor where they're just going to be like, yep, bijou, there we go, another construct that I created. Go ahead and run and fight everything for me.
That's true. There's got to be some more consequences.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's the kind of thing that I would let happen in like dire circumstances, but I don't really want to let happen as like just every time you want to cast this, you can do that.
Okay, well, I think that was life transference.
It was a cool spell.
I think it really is cool. I think that there are some different ways you can use it, but mostly it's the same kind of thing. It's a heal spell, but there's some extra sauce laid on top.
Yeah, a heal with some character.
Yeah, with a little zhuzh. I like to use zhuzh. So that does it. That's it for this episode of The Next Session.
If you have a question that you want to send in, we would love for you to contact us. You can reach us at our website, nextsessionpodcast.com, and there's a section in there that you can use to submit a question if you would like to do so.
And I'm working on putting the episodes up there as well, so you can go back and, check out the other episodes.
Listen to episodes on the website. You can also reach us on Twitter and Facebook at The Next Session. So I'm Adam Johns.
And I'm Allysa Johns.
And tune in next time, and we'll help you prep for your next session.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening.